Hello, and welcome to another On Point review. I am John Pointer, and I'm joined here with my good friend once again, Chip.
Hey, it's Mr. Gunderson. Chip to you. How you doing today, John?
I'm doing great, Chip. So, we just saw the brand new movie Mulan, the Disney movie, a remake of the old cartoon, which itself was a remake of sorts of like an old Chinese folktale. And I my thoughts were that I would say half of the movie was absolutely fantastic, and the other half was just kind of a weird mess. And
Right.
I do think it was definitely worth watching, and you're going to have a lot of fun seeing it, and there's going to be a lot of adventure, but there's also going to be some things that are going to make you scratch your head. Uh, the original Mulan, I didn't see in its entirety. I went to see it with my grandfather in the movie theater just 2 days before he passed away, actually. And I
What a
actually,
legacy.
yeah, and I actually had to leave the theater after 20 minutes or so, because of my bathroom condition. And
Yeah.
yeah, so I never ended up seeing the rest of the movie, so it was kind of like I'm finally seeing it. It's like I'm seeing it with my grandfather again. It was really cool to see. So I don't know if some of the plot elements you would make sense to someone who saw the original, like they would have been expected to understand. Like I don't know why the bad guy Khan was able to walk
Well,
up
okay. Well,
walls.
before you do that, let's introduce some caveats for people who have some familiarity with Mulan. Specifically, if you have seen the original animated feature film, there's a lot of jarring differences where you can see the 20 years difference in terms of character building and approach and the cinematic elements that are emphasized now, whereas before it was mostly about storytelling through song and actual motivation. Now it's storytelling through heavy visuals and lots of yelling.
Right. Like I wasn't clear on the whole wall walking thing because there's at least 4 or 5 different scenes where he like runs up a wall. At first, it just kind of looks like it's a cool stunt, like he's that fast. But there's like one scene where he's just straight up like walking up a wall for a good minute and a half of like airtime. Like he stops for a second to catch his breath, and gravity doesn't catch up to him, and it could be like a magic thing because he's got like his
Well, no,
sidekicks
actually,
and
so little known fact about this is that Jake Weiner, who's listed as one of the producers for the Mulan 2020 remake, is just the pseudonym for Christopher Nolan. So this is his sort of inception impressioning on the Mulan story.
so he was intentionally drawing parallels to the Inception movie.
Absolutely.
Okay, yeah, that really wasn't clear. Although I guess for people who are like longtime Chris Nolan fans, they know to look for things like this. So I can kind of understand that. Um, so there were other characters that had like special abilities that I guess were magic. Like one turns into a bird, and another one turns into a different bird. And I don't think the movie said that there was magic or something. Was that like another like Chris Nolan reference with the birds?
No, but it is another thing that's explained by the cast and crew selection. So I've been looking this up because as somebody who really appreciates like the nitty gritty workers, anybody who's like a gopher or low grade special effects person, some of the crew that are on this were taken from the notorious kung fu exploitation film Robo Geisha. So that does explain a lot of the transformation scenes, specifically a big spoiler alert, Mulan's mechanical transformation later on into basically like a mecha monster.
Right. I do of course want to say that this review is spoiler free though, so you don't have to worry about anything being given away. We're not going to tell you anything that you can't find out through like 30 seconds of a trailer or a quick Google search.
So, one of the cast members that I was really looking forward to seeing how they were going to how they were going to be used in Mulan is Donnie Yen, who, as of recent years, has become extremely popular due to the Ip Man films.
And Star Wars.
Yeah, and Star Wars. It was very strange to see them have him in the movie for over 20 minutes, and he basically only says 5 words. Besides that, it's just him sitting, looking stern.
Yeah, and he didn't do any kung fu, or like he just like I think there's like one scene where the camera just very, very slowly zooms in on his face while he's sitting serenely with his eyes closed, and it's like a good maybe 2.5 minutes before it finally zooms in really close to its face, and then he just opens his eyes and he says, "I'm tired." And that was the whole scene. And
you did miss the first part of that, as you mentioned, due to your bathroom condition, and I promise you one day we're going to find a theater that has adequate facilities to handle that in the theater itself.
Yeah, I had very unpleasant words with the person who was in charge of the bathroom scheduling.
So while you were out, the scene changed to Donnie Yen. He sits down, he says, "I'm awake." And as the camera zooms out, he shuts his eyes. So it's basically paralleling that scene later on in the film. It's a balance there, showing the yin and yang in the world of Mulan.
Okay. So so what are some of the scenes that you think are the most iconic?
Oh, definitely, as you said, the wall running scenes, the wall walking and the wall standing scenes I could have done without, but the wall running scenes were absolute fire here. Mulan's tirade about the inadequate conditions of her army training, about how the bathrooms are basically never cleaned, how there are bed bugs in everybody's sacks of hay that they sleep on. I thought that was really powerful, and it shows a side of Chinese history that not a lot of people are exposed to through the traditional Mulan myth.
Now, the wall somersaulting scene, that was kind of an interesting one. It's very, very short. I think it's like not even a second long, but you see like a quick shot of it. Like the scene before and the scene after are just in like a courtyard where people are having lunch, and then it cuts to a guy somersaulting up the wall, and then it cuts back, and it doesn't really come into play or anything until much, much later when you realize what that is. But I thought it was the same character, but I think this was really interesting. If you look really carefully, it's a woman wearing his clothes, so it's like a bad guy Mulan to counter the good guy Mulan. So I think they were setting it up for a sequel where Mulan fights the evil Mulan, and I think that's something that I'm really looking forward to if they actually get it made, because Disney has a terrible history of abandoning their franchises and never coming back to them and never making sequels.
Well, once again, that's the balance that has been introduced. There's a lot of evening out throughout the film. I will say one of the things that I personally did not like is how they showed Mulan's father in multiple perilous situations where he basically gets saved by dumb luck. It felt unbelievably heavy-handed, almost like the Jar Jar Binks stuff at the end of episode 1, where he's just being an idiot on the battlefield, and just inexplicably, gets saved. But then again, as you mentioned, potentially in the sequel, because the father does survive as in the original, maybe they're going to make him into an evil character because all the stuff that he did was deliberate and he's manipulating everyone. That's my paranoia side kicking in.
It is possible. I didn't really understand that they kept flashing back to him as a baby, and his father kept saying, "Okay, let's burn the baby," and he tries to throw the baby into the fire, and someone's like, "No, don't!" And he's always saved at the last second. And they might be just trying to build up a supervillain origin story of just someone who goes through bad things and then turns into a bad guy. So I do think that you may be onto something with that.
I don't know. I wouldn't say no to a Mulan cinematic universe. We could always use more, foreign, non-North American cultures getting representation in cinema. It would be fantastic on from my perspective. But yeah, I wasn't super enthralled with the whole thing. I was more on the negative side. I'm under the bar here, but I think that something like I think it earned about 3 points.
I would
on the
agree to
scale.
that. Yes, I would say 3 points is a good a good balance. Because I do think some of it was like wonderful, like that singing scene where they're singing about how many bluebirds it takes to fill a tree, and how many trees it takes to burn down a forest if the forest never existed, and just like interesting metaphysical stuff, and things that kind of make you think, and they're good for growing minds for young children. So anyway, thank you to everyone for joining us, and thank you, Chip, for doing this with me once again. And
Oh yeah, sure. And I hope that you're able to replace that pair of pants that suffered the perilous death.
and remember to please leave a comment if you enjoyed our review, and follow us on Twitter. And we'll see you on our next On Point review.
Yeah.